February 20th, 1943, north of Kasserine Pass, Tunisia. The battle reports filed later that day could never fully convey the sheer bewilderment that gripped German tank commanders. What they witnessed on the desolate, dust-choked plains defied every established principle of tactical armored warfare. American M4 Sherman tanks, often dismissed by their adversaries as mechanically inferior and tactically unsophisticated, were executing highly coordinated maneuvers with a precision that bordered on the uncanny. Amidst the swirling sand and the chaotic din of battle, 5 Sherman tanks, separated by the broken, undulating terrain that completely obscured visual contact between them, converged on their designated German objectives. Their timing was flawless, their movements synchronized, as if guided by an unseen hand. Rommel's veterans, accustomed to rigid, hierarchical command structures and dependent on visual signals or cumbersome wired communications for complex movements, found themselves utterly perplexed. How could these relatively inexperienced American crews achieve such seamless integration, especially when operating beyond line of sight? This wasn't merely a localized skirmish, it was a profound tactical anomaly. The Germans, conditioned to dissect enemy capabilities, could not reconcile this supernatural coordination with any known method of battlefield communication. It was a mystery that would only deepen, a silent, invisible advantage that would reshape the very nature of tank warfare. The secret, simple in its concept yet revolutionary in its impact, was communication. While German Panzer crews struggled with rudimentary radio sets, often operating on amplitude modulation, or AM, American Sherman tanks were equipped with the formidable SCR-508 series, pioneering frequency modulation, FM technology on the battlefield. This was not merely an incremental upgrade, it represented a fundamental divergence in tactical capability. Amplitude modulation, the dominant radio technology of the era for German forces, was inherently noisy and susceptible to static and interference. Engine noise, electrical systems, and the raw chaos of combat could easily render AM signals garbled or unintelligible. Its range was often limited, and while a German Fugue 5 radio was a standard fit, it offered only a single channel, making fluid tactical adjustments extremely difficult. Critically, not every German tank, particularly at the platoon and company level, was equipped with a full transceiver, capable of both transmitting and receiving. Many relied on simpler receivers, meaning they could only listen, not respond, imposing a rigid, hierarchical command structure. Conversely, the American SCR-508 system, operating on frequency modulation, delivered crystal-clear, robust signals, maintaining fidelity across distances and through the din of battle. This clarity drastically reduced the cognitive load on tank commanders and allowed for instantaneous, two-way voice communication between vehicles. Imagine the stark contrast on the battlefield. A German Panzer unit attempting a coordinated flanking maneuver would often depend on visual signals, flags, hand gestures, or exposed dispatch riders. This method was effective in open terrain under clear skies, but it utterly collapsed in the dust, smoke, or broken ground of combat. Any loss of visual contact meant immediate tactical paralysis. The American tank crews, linked by their clear, instantaneous voice communication, could maintain situational awareness, adapt to changing threats, and execute complex pincer maneuvers or fire and maneuver tactics with unparalleled precision, even when out of sight of one another. The very supernatural coordination witnessed by the Germans was in fact a testament to the power of a clear, reliable voice link.
While German tank designers painstakingly crafted formidable armored beasts, the true revolution in battlefield effectiveness was quietly unfolding in American industrial labs. The SCR-508's genesis lay not in massive military contracts alone, but in a proactive push for advanced communication spearheaded by American industrial giants. Motorola, a company already at the forefront of mobile radio technology, became the primary archetype of this pivotal system. Under the brilliant engineering leadership of Daniel Noble, who had championed FM radio for civilian use, the SCR-508 series was rapidly developed and standardized. This was a testament to American industrial prowess, where innovation, mass production, and military necessity converged at an unprecedented pace, allowing for the rapid deployment of tens of thousands of these sophisticated units across the armed forces. The true test arrived with Operation Torch in November 1942, the Allied invasion of North Africa. As Allied and British forces landed, the vast, often featureless desert terrain, coupled with the chaotic nature of amphibious assaults and rapid mechanized maneuvers, presented an ideal crucible for battlefield communications. Here, the SCR-508 began to subtly assert its dominance. American tank companies, despite facing initial combat inefficiencies and the seasoned veterans of the Africa Corps, exhibited an unexpected degree of tactical cohesion. Platoons of Sherman tanks, often operating in dusty, broken terrain that obscured visual signals, would execute coordinated maneuvers, flank attacks, and rapid regroupings with a precision that seemed to transcend the limitations of conventional radio and flag communication. German intelligence, while meticulously documenting enemy materiel, largely missed the profound implications of this invisible advantage. They observed the effects, American units seemingly responding faster, regrouping more effectively, and maintaining formation under pressure, but attributed these capabilities to superior American training or sheer numerical superiority. The subtle yet seismic shift in battlefield command and control facilitated by the SCR-508 remained an uncatalogued enigma, a supernatural element for the Wehrmacht, whose own FUG-5 AM radios were already struggling with static, limited range, and the inherent fragility of their more hierarchical communication doctrine. The seeds of the future battlefield network had been sown, unnoticed by the very adversary it would ultimately confound. The tactical landscape of February 20th, 1943, near the Kasserine Pass in Tunisia, provided the Wehrmacht with an early, perplexing glimpse into the future of combined arms warfare. Despite a numerically superior and often more experienced German force inflicting significant tactical setbacks upon the green American Second Corps, a peculiar phenomenon began to emerge from the chaos of the desert engagement. German tank commanders who had initially reveled in their successes against what they perceived as an inferior adversary documented observations that defied their understanding of battlefield communications. While Allied units sometimes faltered under the weight of Rommel's aggressive pincer movements, there were moments of American cohesion that struck German observers as unnaturally fluid. Platoons of Sherman tanks, often operating in dusty, broken terrain that obscured visual signals, would execute coordinated maneuvers, flank attacks, and rapid regroupings with a precision that seemed to transcend the limitations of conventional radio and flag communication. German after-action reports, compiled by intelligence officers analyzing the perplexing enemy conduct, specifically noted the unusual clarity and sustained connectivity of American tank units. They observed that American tank crews seemed to be in constant, uninterrupted contact with their immediate command elements and with each other, even amidst intense artillery barrages and the inherent radio interference of combat. The future of battlefield network had been sown, unnoticed by the very adversary it would ultimately confound.
Yet, in a critical intelligence failure that would have profound implications for the remainder of the war, German command consistently misattributed this observed coordination. Steeped in a doctrine that prioritized the individual prowess of tank crews and the superior armor and firepower of their own panzer formations, they dismissed the underlying technological advantage. Rommel himself and his staff largely ascribed the American ability to react quickly and maintain formation to an assumed superior level of training, perhaps even a latent aptitude for aggressive tactical execution, rather than to any specific technological leap. It was inconceivable to them that a seemingly mundane piece of equipment, a radio, could fundamentally alter the tactical calculus to such a decisive degree. This critical oversight, rooted in a failure to perceive beyond the visible attributes of the battlefield, allowed the true superpower of the Sherman tank, its integrated and robust FM communication system, to remain an unrecognized, invisible advantage, shaping the course of battles from the shadows. As the Allied advance moved from the arid plains of North Africa to the rugged mountainous terrain of Italy, the American advantage in radio technology continued to assert itself, often in new and challenging ways. The deep valleys, sheer cliffs, and dense forests of the Italian peninsula presented a formidable obstacle to conventional military communications. Here, line-of-sight radio systems, particularly those relying on amplitude modulation, suffered severe degradation, turning what should have been clear signals into static-filled whispers or complete silence. German units frequently found their command and control fragmented, with units losing contact over even short distances due to the unforgiving topography. In stark contrast, the American SCR-508 FM radio system consistently delivered clear, robust communication across these difficult landscapes. Its frequency modulation technology was inherently less susceptible to static and interference caused by terrain, allowing American armored and infantry formations to maintain cohesive tactical control. This operational fluidity enabled them to orchestrate complex pincer movements and coordinated assaults, often surprising German defenders who struggled with their own fragmented command in the same unforgiving environment. The ability to relay intelligence, issue orders, and call for fire support in real time, even when physically separated by mountainous ridges, proved decisive in breaking through entrenched German positions. However, the tactical landscape shifted dramatically with the Allied landings in Normandy. The dense bocage country, characterized by its labyrinthine network of ancient hedgerows, sunken lanes, and small enclosed fields, presented a new set of communication challenges. Here, the close-quarters attritional fighting exposed a critical vulnerability, the tank-infantry communication gap. Tanks, often operating with limited visibility beyond their immediate surroundings, were acutely vulnerable to concealed anti-tank weapons and infantry ambushes hidden within the dense foliage. Conversely, dismounted infantry, tasked with clearing these fortified hedgerows, desperately needed immediate, precise fire support from tanks to suppress enemy positions and breach obstacles. Without seamless communication, tanks could not effectively support infantry, and infantry could not guide their armored partners to threats, leading to increased casualties and stalled advances.
American ingenuity, however, was swift to respond. A simple yet revolutionary solution emerged: the external E8 field phone. This robust, crank-operated telephone was typically mounted on the rear hull of the Sherman tank, allowing dismounted infantry to directly communicate with the tank commander. This negated the need for exposed hand signals or the perilous act of climbing onto the vehicle under fire. Infantry could relay real-time intelligence on enemy positions, identify threats, and guide tank fire with unprecedented accuracy, transforming what was once a dangerous disconnect into a symbiotic relationship. The E8, though a low-tech addition, was a profound force multiplier, knitting together the tactical elements of the American fighting force into a more cohesive and lethal unit, further cementing the strategic advantage forged by superior battlefield communication. With the infantry-tank communication gap finally bridged, and the full potential of the SCR-508 radio network now extended to every element of the American fighting force, the stage was set for a true demonstration of its battlefield superiority. July 1944 witnessed Operation Cobra, the pivotal Allied breakout from the Normandy hedgerows, and it was here that the network was truly unleashed. This was not merely an advance. It was a rapid, fluid exploitation of the battlefield, enabled by an unprecedented level of command and control. American armored columns, spearheaded by Sherman tanks, communicated seamlessly, coordinating complex maneuvers in real time. Commanders in their Shermans could direct their entire platoons, companies, and even battalions with a clarity and immediacy that was utterly alien to their German counterparts. This allowed for lightning-fast adjustments to enemy resistance, rapid flanking maneuvers, and the ability to concentrate overwhelming force at decisive points. German commanders, still reliant on visual signals, flares, or vulnerable landlines, watched in bewilderment as American units seemed to anticipate and react with uncanny speed, executing pincer movements and deep thrusts that felt supernatural in their precision.
This tactical advantage, fundamentally rooted in the SCR-508's capabilities and the flexible American doctrine it enabled, allowed U.S. forces to overcome perceived disadvantages against formidable German armor. Nowhere was this more evident than in battles like Arakacourt in September 1944. There, the U.S. 4th Armored Division, equipped primarily with Shermans, faced off against elements of the German 5th Panzer Army, including Panther tanks which boasted superior armor and a more powerful 75mm gun. On paper, the Panther was a vastly superior tank in a head-to-head engagement. Yet, through superior recognition, combined arms coordination, and above all, instantaneous radio communication, the American Sherman units achieved a decisive victory, inflicting heavy losses on the Germans at a kill ratio reportedly as high as 7-1. American tank crews, constantly informed of enemy positions and movements, were able to use their numerical superiority and maneuverability to outflank and overwhelm the Panthers, striking their vulnerable side armor. The unseen advantage of the radio network proved once again to be a more potent weapon than raw firepower or thick steel. Perhaps the most striking historical irony of World War II's armored warfare lies not in the perceived superiority of German tank design, but in a critical oversight regarding battlefield communications. It was none other than Heinz Guderian, the architect of the Blitzkrieg and a visionary in mechanized warfare, who emphatically championed the integration of radios into every tank. His early doctrine, laid out in Achtung Panzer, underscored that command and control, facilitated by reliable voice communication, was paramount for the rapid, coordinated movements characteristic of modern armored thrusts. Yet, by 1943, as the tide of war began to turn, a stark disparity emerged between Guderian's early vision and the actual capabilities of the Wehrmacht. While German industries certainly produced formidable fighting vehicles, the widespread installation of effective two-way radios remained an Achilles heel. Most German tanks, even the vaunted Panzers and Tigers, were equipped with the Fug 5 AM radio, a system prone to static, limited in range, and susceptible to interference. Furthermore, only a fraction of their tanks, primarily command vehicles, possessed full transceiver capabilities. This forced subordinate units to rely on visual signals or wired field telephones during static operations, severely hampering dynamic maneuver warfare and tactical flexibility. Across the lines, the American approach presented a stark contrast. The U.S. Army, through a prodigious industrial effort, ensured that virtually every Sherman tank, indeed almost every armored vehicle, was fitted with the advanced SCR-508 FM radio system. This was not merely a technological advantage, but a logistical and industrial triumph. Companies like Motorola, under immense wartime pressure, achieved what can only be described as a production miracle. They churned out over 50,000 SCR-508 units, ensuring that American tank crews enjoyed crystal clear, secure, and resilient communication across the battlefield, enabling the supernatural coordination that so baffled their German adversaries. But what made the SCR-508 truly revolutionary was not merely its ubiquity, but the sophisticated engineering beneath its rugged exterior. At its core, the system employed crystal-controlled frequencies. Unlike earlier, more primitive radio sets that relied on imprecise variable capacitors, the SCR-508 locked each channel onto an exact, stable frequency. This eliminated signal drift and ensured a crisp, clear transmission even under the most arduous battlefield conditions. Imagine the chaos of manually tuning a radio amidst the din of battle versus simply flicking a switch to an assured channel. The difference in operational efficiency was profound. Crucially, the SCR-508 boasted not one, but two independent receivers. This dual receiver capability was a tactical game-changer. A tank commander could simultaneously monitor the company command net on one receiver while listening to his platoon's tactical frequency on the second. This provided an unparalleled level of situational awareness, allowing for the rapid dissemination of orders from higher echelons and immediate coordination within the unit without constantly retuning or switching channels. It effectively gave American tank leaders two ears on the battlefield, processing information in parallel. Furthermore, the SCR-508 integrated a robust intercom system within each tank. This wasn't just a luxury, it was a critical tactical necessity. The cacophony inside a Sherman, with its roaring engine, grinding tracks, and the concussion of its main gun, made verbal communication nearly impossible. The intercom allowed the commander, gunner, loader, driver, and co-driver to communicate seamlessly, coordinating their actions with precision. A commander could direct fire, a gunner could confirm target acquisition, and the driver could execute maneuvers, all in perfect synchronicity, transforming the tank from a collection of individuals into a tightly integrated combat platform. These combined features forged a truly flexible and decentralized combat command structure. Instead of rigid, top-down directives that often became obsolete before execution, American tank platoons and companies could operate with remarkable autonomy and agility. Commanders could issue mission-type orders, confident their subordinate units could execute them effectively through continuous, clear communication. This wasn't merely about talking, it was about thinking and reacting as a cohesive, interconnected fighting force, turning individual tanks into a true combat team capable of dynamic battlefield adaptation. The invisible advantage of the SCR-508 radio forged a profound psychological divide between American and German tank crews, a factor often underestimated in its battlefield impact. For the American tankers, the constant, clear chatter over their FM nets provided an unparalleled sense of connection and situational awareness. They were never truly isolated, always part of a larger, responsive organism. This fostered confidence, enabling rapid, informed decisions in the chaos of combat. Sharing enemy positions, calling for fire support, or coordinating evasive maneuvers with precision that baffled their adversaries. Conversely, German crews, often relying on visual signals, hardwired interphones for internal communication, or short-range static-prone AM radios, experienced a palpable sense of isolation. When a tank commander lost sight of his comrades in the smoke and dust of battle, he was, in essence, deaf and dumb to the wider tactical picture. This doctrinal rigidity, born from an initial, pioneering, but ultimately stagnant approach to tank radio communication, left German units prone to fragmentation, confusion, and a delayed response to rapidly evolving threats. It created a feeling of vulnerability, eroding morale, and fostering a reactive rather than proactive posture. This psychological and tactical chasm became even more pronounced in the final, rapid campaigns of 1945. The lightning-fast seizure of the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen in March 1945, a critical crossing of the Rhine, exemplifies this. American armored and infantry units, in seamless communication, exploited the opportunity with a speed that precluded effective German countermeasures. Coordinated fire support, rapid reinforcement, and precise tactical adjustments were all facilitated by the dependable radio net, consolidating the bridgehead against desperate but uncoordinated German attacks. Weeks later, during the strategic envelopment of German Army Group B in the Ruhr pocket, the full destructive power of American communication superiority was unleashed. The rapid pincer movements that closed the trap on over 300,000 German troops and the subsequent systematic reduction of the encircled forces were a testament to the American ability to maintain a high operational tempo across a vast, fluid front. German commanders, unable to effectively communicate across their fragmented units or coordinate coherent defensive lines, watched their forces disintegrate. Their intelligence, consistently misattributing American coordination to superior training or numerical advantage rather than technological and doctrinal innovation, had proven a fatal blind spot. This failure to understand the supernatural efficiency they witnessed had condemned them to a war of attrition they could not win, against an enemy whose true strength lay not in visible armor, but in the invisible waves of communication. The true revelation of the Second World War, a lesson often obscured by the visible spectacle of steel and fire, was that the decisive advantage frequently resided not in the thickness of armor or the caliber of a gun, but in the invisible electromagnetic waves that bound units together. While German panzers boasted formidable protection and superior main armament in many encounters, their inherent tactical superiority was systematically nullified by the fragmented, isolated nature of their communications. The American SCR-508 radio suite created a cohesive, responsive fighting force, transforming individual tanks into nodes within a dynamic, real-time network. Consider the stark statistical disparity. By 1943, virtually every American Sherman tank was equipped with a robust FM transceiver, ensuring seamless internal and inter-unit communication. In contrast, only an estimated 20% of German Panzers carried full transceivers, with many relying on more limited receivers or visual signals. The Soviet Union, though a formidable adversary, lagged even further, with barely 25% of its tank force equipped with any form of radio, often of inferior quality. This quantitative gap translated directly into a qualitative chasm on the battlefield. The SCR-508 was, in essence, the progenitor of battlefield networking, granting American commanders an unprecedented level of situational awareness and the ability to execute complex maneuvers with precision. This fundamental principle, forged in the crucible of North Africa and the hedgerows of Normandy, has only amplified in relevance with the advent of modern warfare. The lessons of the SCR-508 resonate profoundly in today's concept of network-centric warfare, where information superiority and seamless communication are paramount. The lightning-fast, highly coordinated operations witnessed in the Gulf War, for instance, were a testament to the enduring power of networked forces, where every unit, from the individual soldier to the command element, operates within a shared, real-time operational picture. The ability to integrate intelligence, disseminate orders, and adapt to evolving threats at speeds unthinkable in previous eras is the direct descendant of the SCR-508's innovation. Ultimately, the saga of the Sherman's radio serves as a timeless strategic maxim. In the unforgiving realm of combat, connection is survival and isolation is failure. The invisible waves of communication, more than any visible weapon, proved to be the ultimate decider, shaping the fate of battles and, indeed, the course of the war itself.